Hello everybody, I have a very special guest today, John Wu of AvaLabs. I know most of you are curious to learn more about how to be the best Web3 entrepreneur you can be, and the resources and tooling and infrastructure and partners that is out there. Take the opportunity to introduce John and get the latest and greatest on how you guys empower Web3 entrepreneurs and the challenges that I'm aware of and how you address them.
Well, Sam, first of all, it's a pleasure to see you again, and thank you so much for inviting me, because I'm very looking forward to the Block Accelerate conference today. It's a special conference.
So wonderful to have you. Maybe to start, for everybody to sort of better relate to you and know your background, could you tell me about origin story of Avalanche and maybe your personal story into Avalanche?
Great, absolutely. So I'm John Wu, president of AvaLabs, the team behind Avalanche. And my personal story is, relevant for this audience, is a 3-time founder of various types of companies. What's interesting is they're all different types of companies. One was an investment management firm. I started my own tech investment firm. And then I started what I would call more of a Web 2 firm. And then lastly, although I'm not a founder of AvaLabs, I was in there in the very beginning and president of AvaLabs, which is a deep Web 3 type company. And then before starting my entrepreneurial journey, I was in the investment business where I was a technology investor at various funds and hedge funds.
Wonderful. And what was the insight you had to join AvaLabs early on, and what was the appeal to you?
Well, the people there, the founder, Ayman Gunsir, is a world-class visionary, call it a technologist, but really a distributed systems professor and one of the most visionary Web3 people around, basically. So my journey into Web3, though, took some incremental steps. Mm-hmm. It wasn't overnight.
Yeah.
Partially because I got into crypto so early. And so my first career, as I talked about, was in the investment side. And then I started my own investment tech fund. And then I was semi-retired running a family office. And in 2014, I first got into crypto as an investor.
Wow.
I owned Bitcoin. I really didn't see the utility of it, but I did supply and demand analysis, and the incremental demand was so much higher than the incremental supply. And because of the fixed, a fixed number of units coming out of Bitcoin, you can do the math on incremental supply.
Yeah.
So I just thought that it was when incremental demand is so much higher than incremental supply, you got to go long.
Right on. So you started as an investor, and at some point you realized, hey, there's more to this blockchain story beyond money as a service or value storage as a service. It's worth building on. What gave you that insight? Was there a project, an inspiration point that said, oh, this is actually worth building on, and the story doesn't end with Bitcoin?
That's right. So the mission that I had suddenly came to me when I saw the ICO boom in 2017. Having worked my entire career in the financial services firms, I suddenly saw an ICO boom, and I looked at that construct and I was amazed at how fast companies could raise money in a global crowdfunded manner, and I knew how efficient in terms of cost it was to do it. I was used to IPOs where you give 5 or 6% away to investment banks and you do months and months of roadshow. The price discovery was very basic in the sense that you're asking people to give indications as opposed to in automated fashion.
Yeah.
When I saw that ICO construct, it really hit me like, wow, this could be a better way for venture firms as well as a possible IPO mechanism.
Right. All of a sudden we have a super large crowd participating in a Dutch auction.
Yeah, and I thought, if I can figure out a way to create this in a regulatory compliant way, I can possibly create more access to private shares and private funds, such as through a security token offering. So I became CEO of Shares Post Digital Assets Group. Shares Post was a marketplace for private securities, and the thought was to digitize a lot of these private securities in order to create more liquidity and also do it in a compliant way, and have this marketplace going.
When you started that, what was the initial starting challenges, and maybe how did that evolve over time?
So this is roughly late 2017, early 2018, and we're now 2022 doing this video. The rules are a little more clear now, but they're still very gray. If they're gray now, they were even more gray, if there's such a thing, back in 2017, 2018. So especially the whole thought was to make it compliant into a new construct. It was really a challenge to find a decision on how to do things so we could be compliant. You know, we went with the construct, which is like, go get an ATS, they already had one, and then do a change in membership agreement. I won't bore your audience with all the specific stuff, but the point is we had to work with the SEC, work with FINRA, many law firms, and ultimately it worked into a way that we thought would be compliant. Then the next challenge, product market fit.
Right. Say to the regulatory gods, I got something that will work for you, but did it still work for your target audience?
Well, who was the target audience? I thought it would be great for the target audience because I was thinking individual users. Who doesn't want to be able to get access to, back then there was Lyft, Airbnb, Uber, they were the private shares before they went IPO. But the issue was the issuers, the companies themselves. Why would a storied name like Airbnb want to raise money in such a abnormal, in their eyes, way of raising money? They can literally just go down Sand Hill Road and 10 doors open. How much money do you want Airbnb? Commercially, it wasn't ready. So perhaps better market fit, product market fit could have been done. Not clear it would have been done though, because I'll go into this later, especially in Web3. And the other thing that we had to recognize was, especially in crypto, there's a lot of belief and over the horizon belief in where things can be and go to. But frankly, in 2018 and 19, the technology, the blockchains available back then were not ready for this scale. We did the math with my engineers, and if we were to do an IPO level with minting all those tokens at one time, it would be as prohibitive in terms of cost as doing a regular roadshow IPO and paying 5-6% away to an investment bank.
Right on. And in a way, I'm hearing you seeing value in Avalanche, and the scalable offering was in effect a solution to the problem you experienced in your SharePost days.
Very good. So again, my mission was to provide more access to hard to find private illiquid securities to more individuals or private wealth people, but I recognized the challenges, and at the same time had my undergrad, I was already an advisor from 2016 to the Cornell Blockchain Club, and Eamon Gunsir, the well-known professor, was the other advisor to the club. So we had a good relationship, and he was creating a whole new consensus protocol. And that protocol and the construct of the blockchain that Avalanche ultimately was going to be, the way it was architected, was going to solve a lot of these scale solutions and speed and cost, the trilemma, if you will, and keep the security. Right. So that's when I realized he's seen the problem from the industry technology perspective. I've seen it from a commercial and application perspective. He said, John, you got to join. And he's the founder. And then it was literally 10 of us in a room about almost 3 years ago at this point, in a shared office space. And today we're 200 people in one of the top blockchains.
Excellent. A wonderful story. Thanks for sharing that. In terms of the challenges for AvaLabs and what we're addressing there, could you speak to how has the ecosystem evolved and what are you cognizant of to the challenges that the founders are experiencing?
That's a great question. So I'll start with the challenges. I had the benefit of being an investment manager founder, and then I will call that, even though it's in the blockchain space and tokenizing private securities, it was really more of a Web 2 construct, classic two-sided marketplace, and you're doing it in a way so that's effectively like a Web 2. And then Web 3 is a whole new ball of wax, if you will. And I think having the mindset of going from one type of firm to another type of firm into Web3, I realized that the first thing any founder in Web3, a real Web3 company, not at the edge, a deep Web3 company, is they have to have the understanding and a mindset that is different from a Web2 person. And what I mean by that, Sam, is that the Web2 world is obviously centralized. The Web3 world is decentralized and open. So every person in a Web3 company effectively has two roles. I, as president of AvaLabs, I'm not just the leader and manager of the core team at AvaLabs, but I have a community that I have to be in touch and engage with. So we have to set not only a purpose for the core team, we have to set a purpose and engage with not just the core team, but also the community. So perhaps you're a leader and a manager of your startup, your core team, but if you're going to really embrace Web3, you have to realize that you need to be a leader for the entire community as well. So you really are wearing two hats at one time. And that's a very tricky thing.
Yeah, you're a CEO and a politician, anthropologist, ethnographer, and a computer scientist all at once. Wonderful. Thank you very much for the time. I'm sure that was very helpful for our Web3 founders to learn more. Feel free to reach out, and we'll be happy to connect with you all.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.